Adorama TV presents Getting the Shot with Corey Rich.
Hey, I'm Corey Rich. Thanks for tuning in for another tech tip. Today I'm going to talk about how to balance still and motion in a remote location. And I know what you're thinking right now. Why are you wearing Gore-Tex, a climbing helmet, a backpack, and you're tied into a rope? Well, I'm about to tell you. Last year I had the opportunity to go to the Karakoram of Pakistan with David Lama and Peter Ortner, two of the world's greatest alpine climbers. The goal was to climb the nameless tower, or Trango Tower. But my job was actually to be the filmmaker and the photographer documenting the adventure. Of course, in the ideal world, there would have been one person focused on still, one person focused on video, and a crew to support us. But that's just not possible when you're in high mountains in a very remote region. So instead, I shouldered a lot of weight. I had to come back with the short film for film festivals, enough video content to tell a 24-minute television story, as well as enough still photography content to do a global print campaign for Mammoet, the sponsor of the trip. So I knew that it was going to be a small footprint production. It was me that was going to be with the athletes once we left base camp up to the summit, hopefully, of the nameless tower, or Trango Tower, which is a 20,000-foot spectacular rock spire deep in the Karakoram Mountains. So I had to make some decisions about what gear would I bring, minimal amount of gear, because of course it's human-powered. I need to get it up the wall, but I wanted to maintain focus on being creative. And at that elevation, that deep in the mountains, you're putting a lot of energy into just being there and being a climber. I'm a participant. I need to be tied into the rope. I need to follow certain pitches. Sometimes I could ascend the rope using ascenders, but most of the time I'm a participant and a storyteller at the same time. So for me, it really came down to how do I balance my time and what equipment would I choose to actually capture that content. I'm going to talk about one specific shot and really use the example of how I balance and how I juggle still and motion on location. So I decided to distill it down to just 3 pieces of camera equipment. A Nikon D600 with a 16 to 35 millimeter lens and a 70 to 200 millimeter f4 Nikon lens. I carried the f4 lens and the Nikon 70 to 200 lens in this low pro pouch mounted directly to my harness so that it was always accessible. And then I had a top loader low pro 65 bag that I kept the D600 in. 98% of the time it was slung over my shoulder. But if I wanted to, I actually had a carabiner that I could just clip it off to an anchor or clip it off to my harness. D600 is what I brought on the Trango Tower. It's an ultra lightweight, small form factor camera. But also full HD video, as well as high resolution stills. Now you'll notice when I pull that camera out, there's no lens cap on the camera lens. That's intentional, because when I'm toggling between still and motion, really the only thing that I'm deciding is, am I just shooting stills now, or am I shooting video and stills? And if I'm shooting video and stills, and it's bright light, typically I'm actually putting the camera strap around my neck, and in the top of this bag, I actually have a variable ND filter. Most of the time on the Trango Tower, I actually left this filter in. It's a Schneider Optics variable ND. And so this allowed me to actually adjust how much ND I had on the camera. The bulk of what I shot in Pakistan was actually with this camera and this lens. And I would literally see a situation, and first I would start recording video. I would let the scene unfold in front of me, wait until there were moments, see if I was getting storytelling elements. As soon as I felt I had enough video content to help fill in a gap, there's cover footage, there's some great dialogue. Of course, I'm always paying attention to where the wind direction is relative to my camera because I'm using the onboard microphone on my camera. I would then switch on the back of the camera from video mode into still photography mode. And of course, I would move my eye from tensioning the camera looking at the back of the camera for video. Then I'd bring the camera up to my eye and begin shooting still photographs. So I'd go into a still shooting mode. Now, what I wanted to do in this particular tech tip was drill down on a specific scene and how I balanced shooting still and motion. As David and Peter were walking across a ridgeline, we were getting to our advanced base camp, the Sun Terrace, which is at about 17,000 feet, I believe. That was where we would spend the night before early in the morning ascending the final 3,000 feet to the summit of the Trango Tower at 20,000 feet. As we were traversing the ridgeline, it was the spectacular fresh snow that hadn't been touched by humans. And so again, as a storyteller, I see the scene and I say, hold on guys, let me get ahead of you. Of course, I walk higher than where I think they're going to be walking so that I don't track the snow. I put myself in a position so that I have a beautiful valley background below. You see the rock wall, beautiful foreground, which is the snow. And I go into exactly that mode that I was describing. Camera goes up to my neck, I'm tensioning it, I've framed my video shot, press the record button, let them walk through frame. I want to get 10 seconds of walking. And then I say, hold on guys, stop. And then I switch into still photography mode. I actually run a few steps forward, not really run, that's an exaggeration, it's 17,000 feet. It's more like I stumble slowly forward. Now I'm breathing heavily because I was holding my breath. I then put the camera to my eye in still photo mode, and now I'm really paying attention to the edges of the frame. In a still photograph, I'm thinking about light, moment, and composition. So my eye goes to the camera because now I can see through the viewfinder, the mirror is not up, and I actually start capturing frames as the athletes walk in front of me roped together. It's rare in an expedition environment that I can actually coach a moment or ask them to do something for me. So I make those requests very sparingly because every moment counts on an expedition. 99% of what I'm shooting on an expedition like this Trango Tower expedition is found moments. As the scene unfolds in front of me, I'm recording videos, shooting stills. This was a unique situation in that we were 100 feet from our base camp. We knew that we were almost done for the day, and so I decided this was an opportune moment to kind of create a few refined moments in both video and in still content. Everything in video is scalable. Everything in still photography is scalable in terms of how much production value you bring to your shoot. The example I just shared in Pakistan, obviously I was limited to what I could carry on my own person so that I could still keep up with the athletes and survive at 20,000 feet. Let's hypothetically say I had somebody helping me. I had an assistant or I was working at a lower elevation where I could handle carrying a little more weight. There's a few simple tools that I would add to this camera kit that would allow me to produce higher quality video content. Number one would actually be an ME1 microphone. The microphone on board with this camera is not bad, but the ability to just put a shotgun microphone with a little protection from the wind would add some directional sound, stereo sound, and that's a bonus. So I would add that ME1. However, this was a little too bulky working alone, and it's one more piece of equipment that I needed to constantly take on and off of the camera. So I opted out of working with the ME1 when we did our final push to the summit of the Trango Tower. The other issue that I had while on the Trango Tower is it was very difficult actually to see the back of the LCD display while shooting video. You can imagine you're at 19,000 feet, 20,000 feet, bright sun, we had a perfect day, and I'm squinting trying to see the back of the camera. But this Zacuto loop was just too bulky for me. It was one more piece of equipment to be dangling off of me. Every ounce really had to count. But I would probably add a Zacuto loop, and that would allow me to really get my eye up against the camera, block the sun, and check critical focus. So that would definitely go in my bag if I were trying to add a little production value. The other thing that I would bring is this is a video monopod by Manfrotto. The difference between this monopod and a still photo monopod is there's actually this little 3 feet that allow you to balance the monopod more easily on the ground, and there's also a ball head so that you can actually fluidly move it. Additionally, there's a Manfrotto fluid head on the top so that I can do more graceful moves. This is a great light and fast piece of equipment for video. This was down in base camp when we were in Pakistan. I obviously opted to not strap this, multi-pound piece of equipment onto my backpack when we went for that final ascent. Finally, if I didn't mind the extra weight, I certainly would have brought a video tripod. This is an older Manfrotto tripod, but it has the key ingredients are there's a fluid head, a bucket for easy leveling, and their carbon fiber legs. We'll publish on our blog a list of all of the equipment that I brought up on the Trango Tower and the equipment that I would have added to my bag if I didn't mind carrying the extra weight. Well, I'm sweating like a pig. It's really hot wearing this clothing in a studio. So thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.
all the latest photography, video, and computer gear, visit Adorama.com. Place your order by 8 p.m. and it ships the same day. Plus, next time you're in New York City, be sure to visit our store located on 18th Street between 5th and 6th Avenue.